And welcome to today's coaching clinic. We're exploring there's more to life than worrying about yourself. And I think this is a topic that has certainly been really a game changer in my life. And as I work with more and more clients, I just notice that there's that common flavor of thought, and that flavor being self-evaluation, self-concern, particularly around the physical, sort of how the body's feeling, or how we're doing physically. And as you can tell from my own voice, I've been a little under physical pressure myself in the last week with a cough and all the rest. And it was interesting to me to notice the difference in my experience, because ordinarily, or at least in the past, I remember I would get so caught up about any little niggle I ever had. I would get so worried and so concerned about what was going on. And I even just noticed recently, like certainly since Francesco died, I would say that my well-being, I would say I would have an experience of more heightened stress and tension. But because I know where that is coming from, it doesn't scare me anymore like it used to. So whilst I might get physically hit with things every so often, they're not prolonged. They're not something that I start to get wound up about. And they're certainly not something that I blame myself for. And this is something I wanted to share particularly today, because a lot of the people I'm speaking to seem to feel responsible for their illness. They seem to be blaming themselves for getting sick or being a certain way or not feeling at their best. And as I kind of looked in the direction of why that is, I began to understand that there's a teaching that may or may not have been misinterpreted in the law of attraction or somewhere, that suggests, that you create your own reality, yes, but that includes any illness that you have. Now, I'm not completely familiar with all of those teachings. As many of you know, I'm kind of a purist when it comes to the principles. The three principles are the teaching that really changed my life for the better. But what I do know is that sometimes we just get sick, and that being in human form, I mean, sometimes it's enough to even be able to get up in the morning. So to add a level of pressure to oneself, that somehow you're behaving badly, that's why you're struggling physically, that somehow you've got something to do with not feeling great. I just don't see that as helpful. I don't see how that helps you on your journey. Now, if you find it helpful or you see it differently, that's great. I'm not here to suggest that you change your lens on life. But if you are someone who has been feeling at fault, guilty, to blame, anytime you are experiencing a physical ailment, a lack of energy could be one of those too, then I really want you to listen in today, because I want to invite you to see something new and fresh about where your experience is coming from and how experience is created. And that part of that is just in being human I was sitting on my bed last week and I had been doing so many things that innocently I couldn't get around to the coaching clinic. And then innocently, I forgot to tell you all. Like time just went flying by. I was just, and I remember sitting on the bed and saying to myself, God, it's hard work just being a human, just getting through the day sometimes. And it's all the ebb and flow of life. It's all part of our experience that sometimes it gets hard. Sometimes we get sick. Sometimes life doesn't go in the way that the personal development movement suggests it should always go, which is happy and in flow and wonderful and totally vital. You're in the human experience. You're going to get sick. You're going to get tired. You're going to get rich. You're going to get poor. You're going to get clients. You're going to get nobody. You're going to have this experience of what we might call this game of life. And so as much as possible, we want to stop putting this gun to our head, this gun about how am I doing? How am I feeling? What's wrong with me now? How did I get sick? How come I'm broke? Like, none of those questions are helpful, especially when you're in the midst of it all. Trying to figure out what's going on when you're in the midst of it isn't helpful. And we know by the feeling we get. The feeling of heaviness, the feeling of worry, the feeling of stress and tension. These are our friends letting us know that the way we're thinking about things right now isn't helpful. And so there's more to life than worrying about ourselves, opens us up to a whole new world of fresh enjoyment. Doesn't make us immune to worry or getting sick or having problems, but it opens us up as we drop from worry about self and body and image and physical conditions and bank accounts. As we drop from worry about that, we drop into presence. And in that presence, there's enjoyment. Like, I know when I'm sitting on my bed and I'm saying to myself, God, it's hard work just being human. I know I must be having a lot more worry thoughts going on because the enjoyment factor isn't there. And that's just helpful information. How you're feeling about your life is helpful information about where your mind is at. How you're feeling about any situation you're faced with is helpful information about where your mind is at. Okay. But we don't want to, we don't need more pressure in this game of life in the form of finding fault with self or going down the rabbit hole of guilt and shame about having an illness or having an empty bank account or having a business that's failing. Like, I want to say you don't attract that. You're just, in life, you're going to have all the experiences. In life, you're going to get it all. And this constant fascination or illusion with always being up and always being fully whatever and always on, like I don't know, I think that's where some of us have gotten into trouble with that. It's life is going to give you everything you need every time. And for some of us, that just includes, you know, whatever is part of our path. I know for me, like, part of my path has always been around well-being. And if I look back at myself as a child, I remember as a child, I was regularly challenged in the area of health. Well, that was all part of my path. Of course, that was supposed to happen because I ended up becoming completely interested in well-being, particularly mental well-being, and moving on from becoming a healer and a Reiki practitioner to becoming a coach. So some of what you're up against that you might be blaming yourself for right now is the exact challenge and problem that you're supposed to be having, and probably over and over again in different ways, but the exact void you're supposed to be having to fulfill your purpose, right? I worked with a fantastic mentor in my early days, Dr. John Demartini, and the greatest thing he taught me was that the voids that we humans experience are driving what becomes most important to us. And ultimately, the greatest void becomes your greatest value, and that dictates your destiny. So there's really little point on beating up on self because something's missing, or it's not going as planned, or you're not happy with how it is, or worse still, you think you're in charge of creating it. You know, you do a lot, but you're not in charge of life. And in this human experience, you're going to have challenges. You're going to get caught up. But there's so much more than worrying about yourself. Now, some of the ways we know when we're caught in worry is we get symptoms, right? Like, that's why I said these symptoms are friends of ours. Thank God we get symptoms such as tension, stress, upset, anxiousness, depression, colds, whatever. We get symptoms to let us know when we're holding the gun to our head for too long. By the time you're getting a symptom, you know, chances are you've been living in more worry for longer than you think. But that's okay. Like, this beautiful symptom comes along, tension, stress, upset being the core ones, just to keep you informed. Hey, come back to the present. Settle down, relax, take that siesta. You know, switch off that laptop, drink that water. You know, it's all there to support you. That's how divinely designed we are. Just as we're not in charge of how many heartbeats we get per minute, or, you know, what's digesting our food, or how that happens, how we take the next breath, just as we're not in charge of any of that, we're not in charge of when we get ill. We're not in charge of when we go under. We're not in charge of the thinking that comes through our mind. The thing we have charge over is whether or not we keep paying attention to thoughts that are unhelpful. That's where we have charge. How do we know when thoughts are unhelpful? We feel it. Our mood drops. Our energy lowers. We go from being a wide open and in enjoyment and presence to closed down and tight and stressed and tense. We feel when we're in unhelpful thought. And the place we have charge is, I can keep thinking like this, or I can go and switch on Netflix and watch a story about somebody else's life, because the thing I'm thinking about my life is just crap. We can divert our attention. So when we're not thinking about ourselves, when we're not caught up in worry about how we're feeling, how we're doing, how we're looking, how much we weigh, how much we have in the bank, when we're not thinking about ourselves, rather worrying about ourselves, we're just in an experience of beauty and presence. We might still be sick, but we can still be present. We might be in a low mood or a bad mood, but we can still be in presence. When we finally remove the gun from our head, we are in presence. And the feeling is always letting us know where we're at, presence or distracted. Distracted with worry, distracted with concern. I remember when I really first started getting freedom of mind about myself. I was working with this wonderful mentor, Dr. Mark Howard. And for those of you that are London based, he's coming to London next month. I'm going to fly over and see him. And I've got a link for you later if you'd like to join him. He's an incredible mentor, one of Sydney Banks's earliest students. And we were working together. And I remember at the time, this going back a number of years, I was so caught in self-concern that he said to me, Grace, do you realize the way you talk about yourself and your body is as though you're going to star in an episode of My 300-Pound Life? My experience of my world was like apparently like the stars of My 300-Pound Life, because I was so caught up in the concern and the whatever about food, about, you know, like just the way I spoke about myself was just as though I was one of those participants. And he really stopped me in my tracks when he said that, because I hadn't seen for myself that the way I was thinking about myself was really unhealthy and really not helpful. And sometimes we don't see it. When we don't see it, we just live in that experience. Another moment on my journey where I really got freedom from self-concern, and I didn't even know I was living in that much level of concern, was the very first insight I ever had formally, let's say. And I went on this retreat in Barcelona with a coach. And I was sitting in the room, and I remember I was wearing high heels, and I was really concerned about how did my bag match my shoes, and her bag was nicer. And oh God, like I'm sitting here, but these trousers are tight and maybe they're going to see my stomach. And oh shit, I hope the teacher doesn't ask me any questions, because what if I get the answer wrong? This is the way I was thinking in that room. Now, the reason I know I was thinking like that in that room, in that self-evaluation, is because my mind got so quiet during that day because of the truth that was being shared, that I finally heard the noise in my head. Up until that point, I just lived in that experience. on that retreat, on that particular day, I suddenly heard the self-evaluation, the comparison, the concern, the worry. And in that moment when I heard it, I dropped, my shoulders dropped, my belly dropped. I took my high heels off. Who wears high heels on a retreat anyway, really? Like, you can, but come on, everything was so tight. I just dropped. I dropped back into grace, maybe for the first time in years. And I realized that the insight I realized was confidence is when self-consciousness isn't. I got my confidence back, not because I perfected my image even more so. I'll always have a high value on style, by the way. But I got my confidence back because I got some space from this self-evaluation in my head. And in that, the self-consciousness dropped, and I could hear wisdom more clearly. I could hear my intuition instead of this noise about myself more deeply. From that point on, interestingly, many changes occurred in my life. One of the big changes was I began coming on camera. Before that, I never came on camera to speak or teach or coach. I started going on the camera. I started being more fluid in front of the camera. I stopped needing everything to be so perfect. Now, again, I still love style, but there's a difference between wanting to express your style in the world and holding a gun to your head about how you compare, how you look, how you're doing, and how you measure up. My life got free. I got enjoyment. I'm going to say this radical thing. I even liked myself more. I was working with a client the other day, and we were exploring this very topic, believe it or not. And she said to me, she said, you know, after your last workshop, I just sat and I cried at the end. At the end, I just was crying tears and tears and tears, not of sadness, she said. She said, I finally saw the innocence in myself and how hard I've been on myself, especially about how I perform in the world and how I look in the world. And as we were doing our coaching call, and I'm going to take you through this little meditation just in a bit, but as we were doing our coaching call, and she was expressing this newfound freedom, I could sense there was another level for her to go to. You know, I could sense she'd really seen it. And then it just kept coming to me, because that's just kind of the way I coach, is just what's coming to me more intuitively. And I said to her, let's just pretend she was called Laura. You know, Laura, if you could see yourself as God sees you every single time, that alone would change your world. And guess what? You can pray to see yourself as God sees you every single time. And sometimes we forget because we're so lost in the self-concern and the worry about the health and the body and the business and the blah, blah, blah. We forget to call on our divine spiritual support to help us see clearly. Those are the very times to call on our support. The times when really it looks like things are hopeless. It looks like we're never going to change. It looks like we can't control whatever's in front of us. Those are the times to get into our connection with spirit even more deeply and invite a fresh perspective. A Course in Miracles says, a miracle is a shift in your perception from fear to love. Well, sometimes the only way we can shift our perception is to invite spirit in, source in, to shift it for us. I was driving home yesterday from Francesco's parents. I still go and visit them quite regularly. And as I was coming back, I was flooded with tears, and I noticed, I'm driving and I'm crying, I'm driving and I'm crying. And that's kind of usually happens when I go there. It's okay. It's, I've learned to see that that's going to be part of the process. So I'm driving and I'm crying, and I reach out to Francesco and I say, Francesco, please help me see clearly there. I'm feeling so bad, like just driving here crying and so sad. And then another thought occurred to me. Maybe I should try and have a deeper connection with Francesco rather than just getting him to do stuff for me all the time. But the next thing that came to me was send me a song. Just send me a song, because I know he can get through to me with songs. So the song that comes on the Italian radio is in English. And I know when a song comes on in English, it's for me. And it was so delightful. The song, I'd never heard it before. It wasn't particularly good, but the lyrics were over and over again. Use me, please use me, keep using me. When two hearts are broken in two, they're never really broken in two. I just want to be next to you. Please use me, please use me. So here I am having thoughts that, I shouldn't just be calling on him for help all the time. And here's spirit saying, are you crazy? You need to use me. Please use me. Sometimes we forget, but we've a whole team around us. We've a whole spiritual team around us waiting in the wings to be used. So if you're not seeing yourself in a positive light, ask for a fresh perspective. Ask to be seen through God's eyes, through spirit's eyes. If there's a situation in your life that looks hopeless, looks like it's not going to turn around, looks like maybe you feel at fault about it, okay? Ask to see it clearly through God's eyes, okay? Ask to see it clearly. Don't forget that sometimes things are taken away or moved away, people too, because they're being moved away or it's being moved away for your favor. All right. So sometimes we need to just ask, help me see this situation clearly. So, let's just do that now, since we're right at that point, and then I'll open up to any questions. Since we're right at that point in teaching, let's just go into a gentle, fresh perspective meditation now for a few minutes, where you can also ask to be seen with fresh eyes and ask that the gun from your head about yourself be removed. So let me guide you through that. Just coming to me to do it now. So let's close our eyes. And take a couple of deep breaths. And feel your feet firmly on the floor. See roots coming from the feet down through the ground, down into the underground, right down to that rock at the bottom of the earth. Wrap those roots around that rock. See golden light coming from the rock, up through the roots, through the underground, the ground and in through the floorboards and up through your feet. Let this golden light circle your feet, your ankles, your shins, your kneecaps, your thighs, your hips, your lower back, your abdomen, your rib cage, your spine, your chest, your shoulders, your neck, your face, your head, and let it move down and swish down through the back, down through the arms, the lower arms, the hands, and out through the fingers. Your whole body enveloped in this divine golden light. In front of you now, just see an image of yourself without judgment, without evaluating, just as best you can. Maybe you're still an adult, or maybe you're a child, or maybe you're a teenager. Doesn't matter. And receive this prayer blessing upon yourself as you just listen to it and take it in, witnessing yourself. Dear Spirit, shift my perspective to have me see myself as you see me, to help me know myself as you know me, to help me move forward as my true self, as you would have me move forward. Release from me the chains of self-criticism, of constant worry about myself. And particularly release from me the worry about, and say whatever it is that you tend to or currently have concern about. Let me experience the full expression of my true self. Help me to let go and to see that however much I think I'm in charge, even less of me is needed as I lean on you, God. Bring me into the full expression of my true radiant self. Let me see the beauty that resides within me and around me and because of me. Let me experience the light at the center of my being, and help me to experience the light at the center of all other beings, even when the darkness tries to overshadow it. Give me deep peace about myself, Lord, that I would know you even more deeply. Amen. And just see yourself radiant, shining, released, relaxed. Self-consciousness moved away and confidence returned. And see those roots again coming from your feet, down through the ground, down into the underground, and right down to that rock at the bottom of the earth. Wrap those roots around that rock, firmly grounded. And begin to move your fingers, your toes, your head, coming back into the space of the coaching clinic. And letting yourself be here now. Notice the feeling of quiet that we are in. Everything else is the noise. This feeling of quiet is your true nature. Always there, always available. It's not conditional. It's not something you have to get to in order to hear your wisdom or your inner guidance. But it's a feeling you can trust. It's a very different feeling than the feeling you get when you're lost in thoughts in your head that aren't helpful. Does anyone have a question or a comment? You don't have to have, but I'll give a minute or two just in case. Sarah.
May you expand upon the thought? I wrote it down, one moment. I can't find it, but sorry.
There's no rush here.
I do a lot, but I'm not in charge of life. You expanded upon a little bit of what we are in charge of. But the latter half of, but I'm not in charge of life, and I kind of capitalized L, life.
Yeah.
May you expand upon that thought?
Sure. So I'll share with you what I see. I've never had children, but I use this analogy, if you like. It's like, how could we think we're in charge when you look at the experience of when a child is ready to come forth in the world? Like, you're not in charge of that push, of that contraction, of that moment that, and sorry, my dog's just arrived. You're not in charge of when that happens. So you're a mom, Sarah, right?
Yes. Yes, I am.
So, yeah, so like, it's probably not the best analogy, but I'm sure that in the moment you were ready to give birth, you didn't look at your watch and say, do you know what? It's time to give birth. I'm pretty sure life moved through you. Well, it looks to me like it's the same with everything if we let it. Life can move us. Life can direct us. Life is living us. And the more I have learned to let go and wait for life's direction, usually in the form of an invitation, a death, an email, a message, a whatever. If we really look at it, life is always living us. Part of the way life lives us is it stirs our heart. Like, how did you even know to come on the call today?
For sure. I mean, I appreciate even your way of teaching, because Spirit has shared with me over and over, it's time to do life with ease. And almost all of my clients are coming to me saying, how do I do life with ease? So they're all coming to teach me as well. And so your way of teaching and sharing honestly gave me permission to allow divine to speak through me, and that's all. Not all
Yeah,
this like structure and plan and all the things. So.
right. So you can trust that, Sarah. You know, like that's an example you've just given me. Life showing you through all those clients showing up with the same request. That's life showing you something, you know? So I just see it is that however much we think we're in charge, even less of us is needed.
It's true.
You know, and I have found on my journey just hundreds of thousands of examples of how life has been living me, moving me, even in the form of death. You know, that's life closing a door. Okay, the door that, you know, we all think, well, this door should stay open, but this door was meant to go somewhere, but this door was well, I had built this door and the door should continue. No, that's life living us. That's life inviting us. That's life moving us to something new for those of us left behind. And I say left behind, but I say that lightly. So there's just something about, we're not in charge of the heartbeats. We're not in charge of the birthing of a baby. We're not in charge of the digestion of the food. We're not in charge of any of it. Why don't we just take a break? Why don't we just see, like really see what's available when we're not pushing through? And only you can know in your own life, everybody, when you're pushing and not trusting life, taking the bull by the horns. I mean, it's the worst thing you could do is take a bull by the horns, right? Well, a lot of us take life by the horns, and it's the worst thing we can do. We know by how we feel when we're doing that. So I hope that helps, Sarah. And I'm so glad you're showing up in the world. I do see you out there. I do see the way you're showing up with spirit on your side. Keep going. The world needs more of that. Joe just wrote in, I just wanted to say a very deep thank you, Grace. I've spent most of the call in tears of relief, which was clearly needed. Yeah. I'm so glad I listened to the nudge to come on today. Well, that's just it. There you go. That's beautiful, Joe. That's life living you. The nudge, that's another way we get life living us, moving us, directing us. See, no, life doesn't say, you know what, you're feeling shit, so let's just feel more shit, right? We're all wired for well-being. Nobody came into this world saying, I hope I feel worse. No, we're all wired for well-being. So you can trust life to send you in the correct direction to feel better, not later, now. And as we feel well, as we are connected to life again, we just know what to do. Anybody else got a question or a comment? And by the way, those of you that are in London, I'm just going to post the link to everybody. I don't know if there are still tickets available. I've got my ticket, but Dr. Mark Howard, an early mentor of mine, incredible man, is coming from San Francisco, and he'll be giving a one-day experience. It's also a virtual event. On the 14th of May, or also in due course, we're going to be sharing with you about a program we're doing together online. I think you'll love it. But if you happen to be in London, or you want to be in London, or you want to get a flavor of Mark, check out that link. Amy, did you want to say something? I just saw you put your camera on.
Yeah, sure. I think I just wanted to share something I heard for the first time and found helpful, which was that it's not conditional. Like, I often work in a way with people that is slightly conditional, like, you know, when you calm down, when you settle your nervous system, you have access to this wisdom. It's always there. But there's this way in which I believe, like, well, it's really only available when you get, you know, into that state. So it was just interesting. I feel like I want to explore that more.
That's a very good thing for you to see, especially if you're working with clients, you know, because we really, you know, none of it is conditional, you know, being a certain way. It's a wee bit like saying, well, I only have access to what I want when I'm in a positive mindset. Like, then that goes back to not trusting life to be taking care of us. That goes back to, it's all on me. I got to keep my mind set up. I've got to keep my vitality going. So it's really good you're seeing that now, because now you're beginning to coach clients. Amy has made a beautiful transition. We've been working together. She's made this incredible transition from yoga teacher into coaching and yoga teacher, which is no small feat, because when people see you just as a particular type of facilitator and you're trying to bridge the gap to offer a new offering. So, you know, it's real. I'm saying, Amy, it's really good you're seeing that now, not later, because now you're starting with coaching clients. Fantastic.
It's exactly your topic today too. I'm realizing it's like we think, again, that's a means of my mind thinking that I'm in control. Like, oh, I have to get into this state and then I have access to it. It's another way of thinking that I'm in charge.
Exactly. No, this nice state is optional. It's not conditional. Spirit gets through. Life lives us regardless of what state we're in.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Anyone else have a question or a comment? You're very welcome to come on.
Okay, I'm on.
Okay, Monica and then Paula. Okay.
Okay. Oh, I really appreciate the topic on kindness, you know, for ourselves, because I tried to do something the other day. I sort of went through this phase. I'm going to embrace my past. I became an artist. I wasn't very visible and verbal. And then I'm not painting that much. And I thought I need to be more visible. So I was going to do a Facebook Live, which I've done before, and I just couldn't get it together. My stomach went, and I had a lot of judgments on that. But just your topic today on saying it's okay not to be well. I mean,
Mhm.
that's pretty huge. I mean, just the persons who were speaking before, then we can expand it to
Mhm.
others around us. So it's, in a way, it was a positive, I think you spoke on that. Some things don't feel like they should be happening, but
Mhm.
it was an experience I didn't want and didn't expect. But because my topic was crisis is opportunity, or
Mhm.
chaos to order, those ideas. I thought, okay, I was speaking of the past where I saw resolve, but here I'm in a crisis and I can't see an opportunity except embarrassment. So I had to kind of lay low. And I've been listening to Mavis. I spoke to her once about my stomach and this, and she said, well, be sensitive. And I thought, okay. And I was going on about I was happy, but if you have peace of mind, you will be happy automatically. So those are kind of my learning. I guess it's getting into the quiet in a different way, which I think you just expressed. Being
Mhm.
so exhausted and still, you have so much learning within you, yet you still have little stumbling blocks, which are learning.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so great for your topic. Thanks.
Thank you, Monica. Lovely to see you. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, one of the things I'm really learning on my path is it was really about rest, you know. I didn't appreciate how much rest I really need and needed. And I'm getting much better at prioritizing that. And I notice as I prioritize that, I feel quieter inside. Now, you would have imagined, I don't know, it's probably a whole other topic for next time, but I wouldn't have said I was tired. I'm quite an inspired person. I love what I do. I wouldn't have said I was tired. I would have said I was rested. But in the last 4 to 6 months, I have taken rest to a new level, and I've noticed it's really a lot quieter inside. So, Paula, if you have a quick question, sweetheart, you and I are going to jump on a one-to-one call in a sec, but do you have a quick question we can share?
Yeah, I mean, or I could just talk to you, but the thing that came up in terms of what the talk was about today is like when you have a physical symptom, and it's like right now, this is allergy season here, but it's allergy season a lot here. And I get this congestion it's always there. Like, how do you, I guess it's like, how do you take your focus off of it when it's always there, kind of thing?
Well,
Or just not take it serious, because this is the worrying about yourself kind of thing, or whatever.
that's like the message I got is like, accept it.
Just accept it. Okay.
Like, I don't have the answers. What I heard was,
Yeah.
accept it. Like, because when we're not in resistance to what's happening to us physically, it just flows. It might not be very pleasant, but it just flows. And often if our focus is really on it, then yeah, there's a level of resistance to it,
Yeah.
So accept it, hold it lightly. It's
Okay.
allergy, what the body
Yeah.
gets sick sometimes, and we don't know how long it lasts.
Right. Okay. All right. That's good. Thank you.
I'll see you in a minute, sweetheart.
Yeah. Okay.
So Everybody, thank you for being here. I want to just let you know about one more opportunity before you leave. And just to say, the coaching clinic is usually every 2 weeks on a Tuesday. Okay, so we're having it today because it's a big holiday here tomorrow in Italy. And frankly, because last Tuesday I forgot. So it'll be 2 Tuesdays in 2 Tuesdays time. The last thing I wanted to let you know is our best-selling group program is just underway. If you'd love to join us, Living Miraculously, session 3 takes place this coming Friday, and you get $100 off for being part of this coaching clinic today. Plus you get the bonus program. So you're getting really the equivalent of, I think, $400 or $500 worth for $300. So I'm going to post a link here. If you'd love to join myself and my colleague, Dominic Scafidi, we're on a 12-week group program, Living Miraculously, all miracle-based and all around helping you get freedom of mind from this constant noise in your head to see the miracles that are available to you. I know a lot of you are already in there, but just in case anyone on the replay is listening, let me post the link. I wasn't so organized with that one. Here we go. And oh, Dominic and I have tons. Well, if you want the link, you can also message me. But session 3 happening this Friday. And the other 2 sessions you would get, oh, here we go. You would get from as soon as you sign up. 12 weeks. I think it's priced at about $300 with that's $100 off special link. Plus I'll send you the bonus recording, our workshop Coming Alive with Joy. All right, everybody. So great to see you today. And we'll see each other in 2 weeks. Lots of love. Ciao.